This is AI 101 on January 26th, and I've started a new notes document here. Let me share this in chat real quick. Although I'm not sure we all use it together yet, but that's okay. I'll change the permissions here. Oops. And then copy that and then put it in the chat. I've also got the notes from last meeting where we've got a bunch of interesting things listed. Today we were going to dig in right around here, or at least start digging in right around here with Llama file. Llama file is it's a one file download that gives you a large language model. And instead of starting with a download, I'm just going to run the one that I've got because I know that works. I think if I just do this, and then this, so we can go back a little bit more slowly and talk about what I'm doing there. But it's pretty simple to, I downloaded the one file and then I followed like two little instructions and all of a sudden I've got a large language model that I can chat with. This is the system prompt up here, and I guess it's going to call itself Llama, and it's going to call me user, which is fine. I can fiddle around with the way the prompts are presented and things, and some of the settings. I can kind of ignore all of that, and maybe I'll just reset all the default real quick. And then I can talk to it, just like I talked to ChatGPT. And this is running all on my computer. That's a really bad joke, but it's a joke. Let me turn off the share and switch to have a bigger screen real quick. I forgot to do that. Yeah, now let me share. Okay, so now the screen's a little bigger. So let's try something a little bit different. I think one of the things that you kind of learn with, at least I've kind of learned playing around with large language models and different ones. ChatGPT, they spend a lot of time getting it kind of just right, and there's things, like having it talk enough but not too much. There's a pretty fine line there that ChatGPT, OpenAI, has done a really good job of. This is a pretty good little story about a unicorn and a turtle. And I think it should remember. I'm just testing and see what it's going to say if I ask it something in context.
The cream of tartar fountain? What?
Sheldon. I can't even think of a question about the cream of tartar fountain. I guess I can do this. There you go. It's hard to argue with that.
because it was the right fountain. Duh.
Um, this the so llama file is it's kind of a wrapper around another model. Um, so I forget I think this one is lava. It's called two L's or Java, I guess, maybe in Spanish. But anyway, uh, so you can actually use the llama file thing with different models, and people have set it up with different ones. This particular model is pretty good at chatting. This is around 3.5, I think. It also describes images, so let's try that real quick too. Um, this happens to be a scenic one, I know. I don't think it worked. Let me try. Oh, there it did. Yeah. So that's an image. This, and this one, it actually works pretty good, except when it doesn't work. Um, I feel a little bad that I have this whole conversation, and then I uploaded an image which doesn't have anything to do with it. So I worry a little bit about context switching, but it did fine actually. Um, so it's describing, the landscape that I uploaded, and it's a totally fair um, uh, description. So there you go. What do you think,
Cool.
RJ?
That's pretty good. And so how big is this model, like gigabytes wise?
Good question. Let's see. Um, I'm going to answer that question in a weird way with the command line thing, but because I've got too many files in my download folder, so this is the easiest way for me to find it. 4 gigs.
Oh, that's really small.
I'm my computer is an M1 Max, I think. It's about 2 years old, a year and a half or something like that. It's a very powerful computer. So I think I have enough, disk space and memory for this to run with no problem. And then it's fast, partly because I have a fast computer. But these things will keep getting better and smaller. So,
So my phone
Mm.
won't support it.
uh, well, really soon now, it will.
Wow, okay. I was being silly, but okay.
Um, so this is the site. Oh, here you go. Um, I'm going to just scroll down here real quick. So somebody actually tried it on their phone, but they ran out of memory. So there you go. Download a tinier model like this one, and it should run on your phone.
Mm.
That's
Wow.
another. RJ is kind of predicting a future where everybody will have a large language model on their computer. The other thing is we're getting more specific language models. So when it gets smaller, it doesn't really have to get dumber necessarily. It can get less, more narrow with its knowledge. So that'll happen too. You'll get different models for different things. Part of this 4 gig thing is the ability to look at images. If it didn't have that, it would actually be smaller.
Mm.
So let's try. This is like this is a blog post about it, and then this is probably that's the source code and stuff. Let's go here. This is like a good link. It works. Let me put this link in the chat at least. And I guess maybe here. Um, so this is the instructions. It's a little like there's one step here, which is a little scary, but otherwise, this is pretty simple. I also kind of wonder, I think I've got that same version, 157BQ4. Part of this is, yeah, I guess these instructions are a little bit old. You know, I downloaded Llama file a month or two ago, and they haven't changed this, I think, which is fine. So you can see this one says starts with lava, and that's the model it's running. Um, so you can download different versions of Llama file with different models.
So, could I ask a generic question about like how one shops for a large language open source model that they want to maybe use? Like, because I think there's different options, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think kind of the answer is it's still pretty experimental, um, which doesn't mean I guess the ecosystem hasn't settled down a super bunch. The most exciting stuff, I guess, is the newest stuff, and then the newest stuff isn't very well documented. It's hard to find. It's hard to find comparisons, that kind of stuff. Um, I have to say I'm not an expert on this, but um, so let's do some searches and see what we got. It's kind of interesting. This website just
Like I
doesn't
hear that
work.
Mistral is like supposedly one of the best. Yeah, Mistral model.
Yeah, and I am actually confused a little bit because I think Mistral was um, even this is a good example of something where you know as soon as you get here, you're kind of like right on the cutting edge. Um, there's actually a previous thing called Mistral, and it looks maybe like it's a the version is higher, and then there's a thing called Mixtral, and the version number is lower. But if you look, this says 7B and this says 8x 7B. So the difference between these two is similar architecture, but to get Mixtral, they use something called, shoot, I had it right in my head. Um, uh, Something of experts, chain of experts.
The mixture of models.
Oh yeah, mixture of
Yeah,
experts. Yeah,
yeah.
actually, let's do that. This is kind of interesting. Mixtral, I think, is open source, but this is a result where somebody's selling it, selling access to it, which I guess is okay. Um, so mixture of experts is really interesting because what you do is you take a bunch of GPTs like 3.5 and then you put them together as a team, and then they can do stuff that one of them can't do by themselves. So it's we're pretty sure the public is pretty sure that GPT-4 is actually a mixture of experts architecture, and it's the original thought actually. They had 3 and then 3.5 and then 4, and 4 jumped up a lot in its capabilities, and everyone's like, wow, they must have like made it 100 times bigger or something, some unimaginable thing. And it turned out later that it kind of leaked out of, it leaked a little bit that no, it's actually not a lot bigger. It's just there's mixture of experts. I think in GPT's 4 case, there's something where they've got 8 times 2. They have kind of theoretically 16, but it's actually done with 8. So some of the experts switch hats or something, and kind of double themselves. So anyway, Mistral is Anthropic, right?
I don't
Am I
know.
am I confusing my?
I thought that was a French company, Mistral. I can't.
Yeah. So, Mistral's kind of an open source. Oh, sorry, Mistral. Mistral's the company. Anthropic is Claude. Yeah. Duh. Um, so Mistral was set up to be an open source thing, and then they were the first big foundation model organization to release a mixture of experts thing, and so Mixtral's a big deal. I don't know that there's, so what we did here, I knew that there was Mistral and Mixtral, and so I just did a simple Google search on that. The problem with asking LLMs cutting edge stuff is, it's not necessarily it's in its knowledge base. So you kind of have to go to Google, and then you kind of have to know a little bit about what you're searching for. But as soon as I did that search, I found a Reddit thing that's local llama. That's cool. That's a month old, and we'll talk about this. So just probably like, what like hardcore web searches that you do for anything, what's the best robot vacuum cleaner, or how do I write a resume, or something like that. You keep doing better searches based on what you find in the search results you've got, different keywords or different models, dolphin, slim orca. This back to your question, RJ, this stuff gets really deep really fast. And I have a few I had a friend who last year was into, he was keeping up with the cutting edge, and he felt cut most of the time. Um, and the other thing was the documentation. He'd be trying to do something that would kind of work, and then the next day he would come back to his computer and there was an update, and then the instructions didn't work anymore, things like that. Olama is, I know this is a good thing, and I guess partly another answer to your question is uh, Olama is a a jig, I'll call it. Maybe it's something that lets you, it
Heck,
it runs the front end, and then it
yeah,
manages models in the back end.
yeah,
Um, so this would be a good kind of way to, you install Olama once, and then it kind of has, you can kind of think as this is a store of models, and somebody's done the work to, you can go out and run any of these like out of the source, but this is a little bit more curated. So Olama would be a great place to start.
yeah. So
Um,
somebody I know recommended them, and also on the web, I've seen YouTube channels that talk about these
yes,
kinds of um, sort of setup uh,
yep,
programs where you they help you actually figure out which model might be best for your machine based on
yep,
the CPU you have, the memory you have, if you have a
yep.
GPU card or not,
So YouTube will be a good place. Reddit will be a good place. There's probably Discords, which are good. Um, another an older thing, was LangChain. Um, LangChain was a beast to try to run, but it was an early version of, something that did it managed. The cool thing about LangChain is actually it didn't just let you use different models with the same front end, but you could also put them together. Um, so you could build because like the name says, you can build a chain of LLMs and say, do this with this LLM, and then give it to the next one and do that. Um, partly as soon as you start talking LangChain and especially building a chain of stuff, um, th there's different things you can do with large language models, and the famous one is ChatGPT, right? And it's built to be a chatbot, but there's other things that you might do with language models, like summarize or develop keywords or get sentiment analysis or whatever, right? Or build an agents set of agents things. Um, So LangChain was built to be something where, it does tasks with LLMs, and, you know, things like that, different kinds of tools that help the LLMs do their work. Um, so
How
then
about
another
like,
thing,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, let me do this real quick. Another thing to do is find an expert. Simon Wilson was somebody who was doing amazing stuff in the early days with LLMs. So he has a thing. I think dataset is actually a little bit like LangChain or Olama, and it's his thing. But um, Willison was helping my friend last year a lot, just not personally, but just watching his blog posts on what he was doing. And he's got some good tools of his own that he's written. There's a command line tool called LLM, I think, that Willison wrote. Um, that uh, that does kind of the same thing as Olama or LangChain. Yeah, this is his thing here. Sorry, RJ, you were going to ask something.
Um, sorry, Mem GPT. That
Hmm.
I think for a lot of people that would be like right now the sort of first step, ultimate, well, first step thing they would probably want to put on their computer. A very small version of a Mem GPT that could run on a person's computer that could, handle like a lot of memory of conversations
Yep,
and maybe for writers, like we talked about the other day,
yep.
trying to keep track of their plots and their characters and or people that want to keep track of other stuff. I
I
if
think that's a good idea. I haven't played around with the MemGPT really. Let's try it real quick. So I'm going to go over to the window where I started Llama file and kill it because it's probably taking up memory. Um, and when I do that, um, uh, I don't know if this is worth going into. The way Llama file works, when it was running, it runs where I can't see it, but then I can do a web browser to it. And now, since I killed it, that site, my computer doesn't work anymore.
oh,
So I could restart it. I could just run it again, and then this will work again. Um, and then I can kill it again. So if I click send, I guess it'll hang. So anyway, so now we've kind of got llama file killed. Llama file, yeah, it doesn't work. We're trying. I'm actually, I recognize, this. So I don't know that unless you are used to running Python programs, you wouldn't just go, oh wow, that's how it works. But I know that's how it works. So let's try it. Um, so that instruction pip is a standard Python installer, and it just says, hey pip install dash u means update. I think if it's here already, just update it. Don't reinstall it. And then Py's short for Python, and then memgp. So then pip. knows to install like it looks at memgpt. Somebody set up a configuration file for memgpt and the Python version of memgpt, and they said, okay, to run that, you'll need to install a bunch of other stuff.
Okay, good.
So it managed installing all the other stuff. So now, theoretically, by the way, also another thing with pip, whenever you see pip install, not that you would immediately go do this like I did. I know whether it's safe or not. And pip install is not necessarily something you want to do without knowing more. But a thing that I didn't do that maybe I should have done is created a virtual Python environment. Um, so longer story why that's important, but I probably should have done a Python virtual environment instead of just this. But on the other hand, I kind of want it, memgpt to run kind of everywhere on my computer, so maybe it's okay. So let's try memgpt run. I think, let's see. I'm going to say, so right here is where it's choosing the backend LLM basically. And I can either use OpenAI's API if I have an API key or somebody else, or I can use the free memgpt endpoints. I think for what you're talking about, RJ, we actually want to do custom LLM endpoint probably, and then have a local LLM that's running. For the sake of getting started, let's try just this, the free memgpt endpoints. So I think these, even though they're free, I think they're running in the cloud. Somebody's, sponsoring them to run. So it's using Dolphin Mixtral. Nice. It's using it off of memgpt.ai. Persona profile SAM POV, human profile basic. So here you go. I guess this is a command line one rather than a web-based one. And I'm solid. Well, two things. If I played around with, I'll bet the. Let me see if I can fix the way this looks real quick. I think if I put it to dark, it's probably gonna. Nope. Let me do this again with another. Oh, the outside of the theme is dark, but the screen is not. Okay, let me try this again. This is the settings for my terminal program. Windows, panes, huh. Mm, okay.
If you switched foreground and background colors, would that do it? Is that what you're
Yeah,
trying to do?
maybe. Was that in appearances
Well, wherever
or
you just were, it
general?
had colors and you could have switched foreground and
Oh,
background colors,
profiles.
I think.
Um, because they're using other colors, they're using some of
Yeah,
these. I'd
that
have to
might not
switch
work.
even more.
Yeah.
And uh, here's color presets. Yeah, that'll work. So that's better. Um, I don't know about better, but whatever. So I said something, hey Sam, how are you doing? I'm a little down today. So I guess the I don't know if down is where we wanted to go with this. It's also interesting. It's here's what it's thinking in the background, and it's showing us its thought process, which is kind of cool. Um, I you you know Pi better than I do, but I think Pi would have been a little bit more chatty and a little bit more human feeling.
Oh yeah, Pi is like amazingly conversational.
Yeah. This one is kind of flat, which is, fine, but uh I want to try something where it's going to remember something if I quit it and start it again. I actually don't know how to quit. They didn't tell me. Um, but there's a standard command line thing for quitting, Control C. There you go. So now it's not running at all. And if I start it again, so I can either start a new agent or an existing agent. And sure, I'll talk to agent one. Um, I would have picked better default names than agent one and agent two, but whatever. I'm super hoping it'll say, how are you feeling now?
Agent 99.
Agent 99, yeah. Um, I should have asked it more open-ended, um, hey, was there anything you wanted to remind me of? So the good news is it knows that you know, I can I can tell it to remind me of something and then I can ask to, ask what it was and it can figure that out. Um, it did a lousy job of, what was that thing I wanted to be reminded of? And it's like, okay, I reminded you. So it knows what it's talking about, but this is like
Yeah.
a
Well,
whack
that's where they
answer.
hallucinate. Yeah, they hallucinate there. Yeah.
I don't even know if I would call this hallucination. I think it's just kind of it failed to it didn't really come up with a new thing. I this is more like a process bug, I think, than a real hallucination. Um, subtle difference, but so it's as easy that to get started with MemGPT. Let's look for let's look in the docs for a local LLM. So of the ones, this is the one I want. Uh, so we've teleported into the middle. This is what it wanted me to look at, even though this is the thing that I can read. So let me scroll up on this page. This is configuring the backends. So you can talk to OpenAI, you can talk to Azure, you can talk to local models. And then the instructions are someplace else. Right away, it's like, okay, here be dragons.
Yeah.
Um, but that's okay. I'm going to scroll real fast here and see if there's anything we can do super quick. Uh, so, uh, so this is kind of this is a good example of that. You're kind of getting to the cutting edge. And just to get this set up, um, there's dependencies you have to worry about to get um, MemGPT to be able to do this at all. And then you need a model wrapper. Oh, and then you also need a an AI API for the model, and then a model wrapper, and then a grammar. And you can pick, one of these things, and you have to figure out which one's best for you. And the way to do it is to go to Discord and check model chat because it's changing all the time. But they give you some like good advice. We started off with Dolphin Mixtral instead of Dolphin Mistral. Um, and this is the kind of advice you get, okay, not below, do not use models below Q5 quantization. Oh, great. That this set of instructions wouldn't be super hard to run. I mean, you could follow it and stumble through it and get it going. The thing I'm a little concerned about is we could go off to the Discord channel, but it's probably not worth it for right now. The thing I'd be a little worried about is the models seem pretty simple.
Yeah,
But
that's the tricky part about picking a model to use. It's almost like would be better off talking to some people that already want to do what you're trying to do.
yeah,
And if they were actually able to find a model that worked and did what they wanted, and that's what you want too, then you go, okay, tell me the model name and
yep,
I'll try that out. Because otherwise, people load models and they find out it was a big waste of time because it doesn't do what they want to do, basically.
yep, yep. That's a good strategy. Find somebody who's doing something. Find something who Find someone who has a lot of experience and ask them, for some advice, or just find somebody who's trying to do something you're trying to
And
do.
I think the writers in particular would be the good people to ask because if writers have found a large language model that can run locally that has a mem kind of capability, then they probably tested it out really good
Yep.
and yeah.
We're kind of 6 months or a year from the ecosystem for that, I think.
Okay.
MemGPT is just getting to the point where so 6 months ago or however long, a year ago it didn't exist, and then 6 months ago it would have been really tricky to get it running. Now it's easy to run, but it's not very sophisticated. So, and the models are getting better, things like that. It's going to be a little while before it's, really useful. To say
Yeah.
that a different way, if you want to do fancy stuff right now, you I I would still go to Claude or GPT-4.
Yeah. I
And then
think
I guess
also, sorry, yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's more than just the model. There's also the dialogue management system and the
Yep.
way it's been trained to do what it is that you want it to do. Yeah.
Um, let's try it with GPT-4 via the OpenAI API. So let me grab um, an API key, and then we can try this.
So what is this doing
Um,
now?
um, so I don't know if it's worth drawing a picture or not. So MemGPT is a system that adds memory to the GPT stuff, right? And then the
Oh,
back end of that is you can have different models. We're using uh, Shoot, it was just here. We're using Mistral 7B, I think, or maybe Mixtral. Actually, we're using Dolphin Mixtral, I think, for this. Um, but it may seem a lot smarter if we can use GPT-4 instead. And that's not. Hang on just a sec while I type my password. That's not local yet. GPT-4 isn't local, but maybe in a year, Mixtral, whatever, Mixtral 16B instead of 7B, uh, will be kind of GPT-4 level, and then the best thing will be GPT-5. So what I'm doing is I'm going to quit this, and then I'm going to bring it over here to put my my API key in. What should I do with this? And an API key is kind of like a password or something, so I don't want to record it.
Kyle gave us his entire credit card number. Are you telling me
Nice.
that you're going to be more protective than that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more shy than that. Did he decide to change his credit card number, or is everybody like drinking margaritas or
Immediately.
whatever?
It was pointed out to him, and he said, "You know what? Hold, please."
Yeah, on that's really smart. Yeah. So now I pick OpenAI. This looks right, even though it's. Let's see. So I could use GPT-4 or GPT-4 32K. I think this is November 06, so that's old. 32K would have a larger context window. We're not going to get to that. So and it's more expensive than GPT-4, so that's why they're recommending GPT-4. So that sounds good. Select embedding provider, OpenAI. Hugging Face is a place where it's a hub for people posting models of all different kinds. So that's why it was in that list. And if you were doing this hardcore, you might get into finding the best, coolest, latest stuff on Hugging Face. Select all features. Sam POV. Wow, default human, CS PhD. And local for archival data. Okay, so now I can say GPT run. I think the way it's set up, we're going to talk to agent one. Will now, well, actually, no. Let's start a new one. I think it would still, if we picked agent one, I think it would just have switched models. But
By the way, I think we only have 5 minutes to the call, roughly, right?
yeah,
Okay.
thanks for watching.
Yep.
So this time we select default human differently. So we're already in the persona of a CS student, PhD student, Chad, I guess. Uh, it's taking longer. As we're getting close to time, is there anything else that we should cover?
I'm good.
So we didn't get a lot of experience with dolphin mixtral, but this looks like it's a lot more thoughtful. Its internal dialogue is pretty deep. Um, just the way it said it here, interesting. Chad wants to know more about what I like.
It's talking in the third person.
And it's also weird to have an LLM say, huh, that was interesting. So it's not a therapist voice, but it's more conversational at least.
Thank God.
um, uh,
So this is Chat GPT talking now, basically.
it's GPT-4, yeah.
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 Okay. But it's using your local memory now.
Yes. And where it'll be interesting, um, it'll be interesting if we get started, learning a language, and then I'll quit it and restart it and say, hey, let's practice learning language again and see what it thinks. And then there was an interesting thing where Latin, seriously? There was an interesting thing where it said select storage backend for archival data, and it says to pick local. So I guess you can pick cloud storage too, which is kind of mind blowing, but I guess that might be cool. Then you could go to different computers and have it, log into your memory in the cloud, whichever memory you wanted. Um,
All right. We only got like about 3 minutes or 2 minutes left, I think.
let's do the real quick experiment. So I'm going to kill it and then start it again and say, hey, let's practice language. Which one were we using? Seems weird to just kill it, but whatever. So we were using agent 2 there. Start it up again. So MemGPT in the background should tell the language model, okay, we're restarting a session, set the context a little bit for the user. So I wonder if it's going to talk about language or about Formula One or sailing.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know how MemGPT is doing this because, from what I know, dialogue management systems tend to summarize conversations to keep it within the context window, sort of chunk sizes that the models can handle. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So the internal dialogue is really amazing here. So MemGPT must have told GPT-4, you're waiting for the next message. Think about the things that you've talked about before. And then it decides to wait, even though it's thought about it a lot. And this internal dialogue is very rich, language rich. So anyway, so basically what it's doing, it's got a regular database, and then it's saving the conversations to the database. So So it's kind of a RAG where, you know, it's got its generic knowledge and then it's augmented with, there you go.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, see, this is another thing, students, I'm glad you brought up the training, learning thing, because besides writers, students are a massive population that would be interested in this. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't doubt if there's some free tools out there somewhere that can do what I was talking about, that you could load on a machine, but it's just a matter of
Yeah.
finding a good one that's reliable.
That's like right at the,
Cusp, yeah.
yeah. 6 months or 12 months, definitely. Right now, yeah.
No, but in AI speed, this, that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think like in technology speed, that would take a decade, you know, so in AI speed, it's 6 months.
I think it's
I
faster.
no,
I think it might
Sorry,
already
guys.
be here.
I got
that's
to bug
okay.
out. Bye,
We'll see you,
guys.
Claire. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Thanks,
Take
RJ.
care, Claire.
See you
Thank
later.
you. Okay.
Good session,
Thanks.
folks.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.